What is up, Hawk fans of all ages? Well, unfortunately, the wild ride did have to come to an end at some point, and it came to an end in the way that none of us particularly wanted. So, Seattle makes it to the playoffs, and they play the 49ers in the wild card round, and unfortunately, despite being up 17-16 at halftime and it actually looking like it could be a close game, unfortunately, it is not a close game. They completely take over in the second half. The 49ers win, and Seattle's season is now officially 100% over. It's been one heck of a wild ride, and this video is going to recap today's game as well as just the season as a whole, giving my thoughts, opinions, where the Seahawks did great, where they didn't do so great, and just kind of giving a brief recap of how the season went. So to start off with the game itself, this is a game in which the offense was doing everything that they possibly could against the best defense in the entire NFL, and unfortunately, our own defense was not up to the task of stopping the 49ers attack. So it was a close game, like I said. It was 17-16 by the end of the half. Kenneth Walker had a rushing touchdown in the first half. DK Metcalf had a fantastic 50-yard touchdown. He was one-on-one with Charvarius Ward, burned him, and had us take the lead. Jason Myers was great on the day as well. Geno Smith, aside for the one he had an interception that he threw to Diamador Lenoir, which was more on like at that point, we were already down by 22 points, so it was just like we're just doing anything we can to move down the field and get points. And the sack, which again I do put that on Geno. That sack is 100% on Geno. I was mouthing it to myself and saying like the one thing we cannot do here is turn the ball over, and I knocked on wood, so I know it wasn't my fault that we actually fumbled or turned the ball over. But yeah, turn the ball over, they go down, score a touchdown. Really the one thing we couldn't let happen there happened. But yeah, so it was 49ers were up 10-0. We come back with the Kenneth Walker score. They get a field goal. Then we come back with the DK Metcalf score. They score a field goal, and then a great running play, and then a slide, and then a personal foul on Geno Smith pushes us into field goal range. Jason Myers puts us at 17-16, and then 22 unanswered points. They go up 38-17 on us. Seattle walks down the field pretty much unopposed, but at this point it didn't matter. It was just garbage score time, and they get another touchdown to DK Metcalf. So we will go ahead and go down the box score and kind of highlight the good parts. First of all, Geno Smith, 25 for 35 on the day, did have the pick by Lenoir, did have the fumble, but that was just a good Bosa play. Did have 2 passing touchdowns on the day, 253 yards. All in all, Geno Smith had a good game. I know that some Seahawks fans are not going to see it that way just because of the fumble and the interception, but you have to understand this is the best friggin' defense in the entire NFL. These things are going to happen. And when the defense is this good, your own defense has to be able to step up to the plate. And the offense did all right. Kenneth Walker, not his most efficient day, 15 carries for 63 yards, did get a touchdown. They did get pretty adept at stopping him after the first couple. DJ Dallas had a couple of carries, but he didn't really do much. Geno Smith, a couple of scrambles for 28 yards. DK Metcalf on the day was amazing. We were giving him a lot of crap during the season, but he had a great game today. Fantastic game today. He was the main reason why we were still in this game, in any capacity. 10 catches, 136 yards, and 2 touchdowns. DK Metcalf in the playoffs is on a whole nother level, and it's great to see. Another guy who had a good day very quietly, who I think I really want to see him back with this team next year. Maybe it's on the 53-man roster, maybe it's back on the practice squad, but Cade Johnson, he had a couple of really solid catches in the second half that put us in decent positions. 3 catches for 39 on the day. Tyler Lockett, 6 catches for 39 yards, had a drop. Aside from that, nobody else really did much. Colby Parkinson, 3 for 14. Noah Fant, 1 catch for 11 yards. Derek Young, one catch for 11 yards. Kenneth Walker, one catch for 3 yards. Again, Geno Smith lost the fumble. So we were -2 on the turnover differential today, which, again, not going to win you many games. But the offense, aside from the Geno fumble and the Geno interception, which were bad, don't get me wrong, those were bad. Geno does not deserve the lion's share of the blame for this loss. Again, and I feel like I'm a broken record at this point. It's the defense. I mean, there have been conversations happening. I mean, as I fully expect them to. About like, oh well, maybe we take a quarterback with 5. No, I'm sorry, I can't in my right mind look at Geno and say that he is the reason we are not going farther than we can. It is 100% on the defense. Tariq Woolen probably had his worst game in the NFL since week 1 when he had those 2 pass interference penalties against the Broncos. Tariq Woolen probably had his worst game in the NFL today. He's still recovering from that ankle injury, so I think he's still hobbled by that. But yeah, not a great game. Ryan Neal was great today. He was your leading tackler. Bruce Irvin and Uchenna Nwosu were constantly getting into the backfield. And Bruce Irvin did have a sack on the day. He was the only player with a sack on the day. Bruce Irvin was good. Uchenna Nwosu was getting into the backfield constantly. Our linebackers desperately needed help. Not fantastic. We gave up almost 500 plus yards of offense. That is insane. That is pathetic in every way. So yeah, this defense needs to do a whole heck of a lot of soul searching this offseason and figure out what they need to improve on and where they need to go from here. No interceptions on the day. Godwin Ikwebuike, probably one of my favorite eye-opening experiences so far of this season is how fantastic he has been on kick returns. In some capacity, he needs to be back on this team next year, even if he's your running back just for his return ability. He's been fantastic. Colby Parkinson, again, only had 1 return for basically no gain. Jason Myers, pretty quiet day kicking. He was 1 for 1 on a 56-yarder and then 2 for 2 on extra points. So not much else to show there. And then Michael Dixon was decent at punting the ball today. So all in all, a good game by the offense for the most part and a complete defensive meltdown. But again, I didn't expect anything less. I mean, take a look at any video. I don't think the vast majority of fans knew that this was going to be a 49ers win. I predicted it was going to be a blowout, and I was kind of right. But yeah, all in all, even with this wild card loss, I have to say that this season was a roaring success. Just going from we trade our franchise quarterback, Russell Wilson, we cut Bobby Wagner, and we made a lot of changes to this team. And we went from 7-10 and missing the playoffs to 9-8 and making it into the playoffs this season. So, all in all, this was a very successful season. Plus, we have the number 5 pick from the Broncos, and that gives us a lot of fun things to play with in the off season. A lot of different ways that we can go with that, and I'm really excited because the future for this team right now is very, very bright with all the draft capital and all the cap space we have going into next season. So now that I've kind of covered the wild card game, let's go through and give a quick recap of the Seahawks season as a whole. All in all, Seattle finishes the season at 9-8 with wins against the Broncos, Lions, Cardinals, Chargers, Giants, Cardinals again, Rams, Jets, and Rams again. We had two losses to the 49ers. We lost to the Falcons, the Saints, the Buccaneers, the Raiders, the Panthers, and the Chiefs. And taking a look at Seattle's box score and just the stat lines from the entire season, Geno Smith, one of my biggest winners of this year, 100%. He went from being a career backup after failing out of New York, the Jets, to being a backup to coming in and replacing the greatest franchise quarterback that Seattle has ever seen. And not only does he fit in well, he was amazing. He exceeded every expectation. Not just exceeded expectations, he broke records. He broke the franchise record for completion percentage, 69.8%. He broke the franchise record for passing yards, 4,282. He's just had a fantastic season. I'm so happy for him. 30 touchdowns to 11 interceptions. Yeah, you always want to see that interception number go down. But all in all, ends the season with a 100.9 passer rating. Whatever happens with Geno Smith in the offseason, and trust me, we're going to have lots of stuff to talk about in the offseason, especially with free agency and the draft and all that fun stuff. So whatever happens to Geno Smith in the offseason, he's going to get the bag somewhere. Somebody is going to offer him upwards of $30+ million a year. And that could be the Seahawks. That could very well be another team. But all in all, wherever Geno goes, just know that he deserves to get paid. So very happy for Geno. He had a great season. Another player who had a fantastic season, Kenneth Walker III. 228 carries, 1,050 rushing yards to go along with 165 receiving yards and 9 touchdowns during the regular season. Dude was kind of slandered a little bit as a second-round pick, like, oh, a second-round pick on a running back. That's the value isn't there. He proved a lot of people wrong. It's fantastic to see. Geno Smith, also decent on the ground. Rashad Penny, obviously he was injured in week 5, didn't play after that, but going into that game, at the end of the season, he still went for 346 yards on 56 carries for 2 touchdowns. That's 6.1 yards per carry. He was doing great. Unfortunately, Penny kind of proved once and for all that he can't be relied on to be your bell cow for a full season. And it was a fantastic idea to get Kenneth Walker. I'm open to Rashad Penny being back next season, but it's going to need to be at a lower cost than what he was paid this year, because he was paid last year expecting to be the bell cow running back, and he's just not. And we've seen it time and time again, but he cannot be trusted to be healthy enough to be that bell cow running back. I would give him backup money to come back, but nothing more. DJ Dallas had a quietly good year in a reserve role. No touchdowns, but did have 35 carries for 186 yards. Was actually pretty good in the receiving game as well. Travis Homer, after actually having a pretty efficient and good year in 2021, definitely regressed a lot. I will say he was also injured for a bit of this year as well. He had 19 carries for 74 yards to go along with 16 catches for 157 yards and a touchdown. More useful in the receiving role, but again, he's a free agent after the season. I don't see him coming back. Marquise Goodwin, D. Eskridge, Tony Jones, these guys are in the rushing game, not really much to talk about here. In the receiving game, again, Seattle had one of 5 teams in the NFL to have 2,000-yard receivers. I think the Bengals were one, the Eagles were another. I can't remember if don't remember if Thielen had over 1,000. Either way, point being, both DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett exceeded 1,000 yards on the season. DK Metcalf had 1,048 yards through the air with 6 touchdowns. Tyler Lockett had 1,033 through the air and 9 touchdowns. Your third receiver on the year, Noah Fant, 50 receptions for 486 yards and 4 touchdowns. Statistically, his worst year of his career, but again, he wasn't used in like a featured receiving role like he was in Denver. He was used in sort of this tight end by committee sort of structure that Waldron had this season, and used pretty effectively. Colby Parkinson, again, had a fantastic year after being basically an afterthought his first 2 years of his career, and having like a combined 50 yards on like 5 catches or something his first 2 seasons. He broke out. 25 catches, 322 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Kenneth Walker, like I said earlier, also useful in the receiving game with 165 yards. DJ Dallas, also effective with 17 catches for 126 yards. Some massive disappointment. D. Eskridge. a guy who missed a lot of his rookie season with injury and came back and wasn't really the guy we expected him to be. I was hoping that he would break out into more of an effective like wide receiver 3, but it just never happened. He looked confused. He looked out of place. He looked like he had no idea what he was doing half the time. Finishes the season with 7 catches for 58 yards, and I don't think his roster spot is safe after this season. And I think he is one of the reasons why I think Seattle really needs to address wide receiver high in this draft, just to get a solid wide receiver 3 behind Lockett and Metcalf. Behind them, Laquan Treadwell, 6 catches for 42 yards. He was just a practice squad fill-in for injury. Derek Young didn't really see the field a ton in like a receiving role. When he was on the field, he was primarily used as a blocker most of the time. But in the last game of the year, had 2 catches for 24 yards, got on the field, which was fantastic to see. I'd love to see him used in more of these like special packages going forward. I really like what another big body receiver like Metcalf can do. Cade Johnson, another guy who's been on our practice squad starting last year, he was my UDFA darling of 2021. I was fully expecting him to be a big contributor, and I'm happy to see that he's finally making it on the field. When one way or another, he needs to be back next year and needs to be put into a role to succeed, because I think Cade Johnson shows a lot of promise out of the slot. Next up, we got Penny Hart, again, forgettable. Tony Jones, forgettable. Penny, we already talked about him. Mabry, another practice squatter who had his first NFL catch, which was a touchdown. But I don't see him making the 53-man after this year. Godwin Igwebuike, again, not a big name. On defense. Defense was bad. Defense was really bad. And I'm glad we know deep down what we need to fix, because there's a lot of stuff that needs to get ripped out and just replaced. Jordan Brooks led the team with tackles this season. He had 161 on the year. Unfortunately, he tore his ACL 2 weeks before the end of the season, and now he is probably going to miss a decent chunk of next season recovering from that injury, which sucks because he is our only inside linebacker under contract for next season. So it's really got to figure out what we're doing with that position, because if you were watching today, the linebacker play left a lot to be desired. Cody Barton's a free agent. I don't think he's going to be back next year. I don't think he should be back next year. Just a lot to look at. As far as sack numbers go, it's a tie for first place for your sack leaders. Both Darrell Taylor and Uchenna Nwosu tied with 9.5 sacks. First half of the season, a lot of us had written Darrell Taylor off. He was playing pretty bad. He was being used in a pretty limited role. He was just disappointing. But like over the second half of the season, his pressure became a lot more consistent, and he was finding the backfield a lot more because of that. They found a good role for him. They better keep him there for next year. Him and Uchenna Nwosu, and I assume Nwosu is going to get a contract extension after the season, if he absolutely deserves one, and it would definitely help open up some cap space for next season. But yeah, Uchenna Nwosu, 100% big role in this defense going forward. Quentin Jefferson, he had 5.5 sacks on the season, and that's nice for a defensive tackle, but the thing about Quentin Jefferson is if he wasn't getting a sack, he wasn't doing much of anything. He's not a good run defender. He's a good penetrator, but that's it. Bruce Irvin is one of the coolest stories of this season, though. Coming off the couch to really solidify a linebacker role that was really decimated after Darrell Taylor's disappointing start to the season, as well as a couple of injuries at the position with Alton Robinson and Tyreek Smith missing the entire season. So yeah, Bruce Irvin, 3.5 sacks on the season. Fantastic for him. Boye Mafe had 3, the rookie out of Minnesota. Kind of had a bit of a disappointing season compared to kind of the expectations he had coming in. But he was consistently improving. He proved to be a pretty good run defender. Needs to improve in his pass rush, but I think going forward he'll be great. Poona Ford, 3 sacks as well. I don't expect him to be back next season just because he's a free agent, and he hasn't really done much to make me think that he should be back this season. Al Woods was a great veteran presence, 2 sacks on the year, one of our best defensive linemen, which honestly isn't saying a whole heck of a lot. Kobe Bryant, another fantastic little piece to this defense coming out of the slot. He started off pretty rough, but he just got better and better and better every week out of the slot. Also proved to be pretty good on the blitz, has 2 sacks on the year from the blitz, 4 passes defensed, 4 forced fumbles. Even if he doesn't stay in the slot after this season, I think he has earned a consistent starting role in this defense, which is fantastic to see. Shelby Harris, it's kind of a toss-up whether we see him back. He was getting pressure pretty well. He has 2 sacks on the season. He's not like the dominant guy we were kind of expecting from Denver. He didn't hit that level, but at the same time, he's getting up there in age. I don't know if he'll be on the team after this season, but we will wait and see. On top of that, Cody Barton, he had a better season than a lot of people were expecting. 2 sacks, 2 interceptions. But I don't expect to see him on this team going forward. Jordan Brooks also had a sack. Ryan Neal, it's probably going to cost you a little bit to bring him back, but Ryan Neal needs to be on this defense next season. He has been amazing. PFF even thinks that he's the best safety in all of football. I'm not willing to go that far, but I can see an argument for why he needs to be back here. Moving on to interceptions, Tariq Woolen, absolutely fantastic rookie season. Did get kind of burned in that playoff game. Didn't look his best, but honestly, he was fantastic this entire year. He made the Pro Bowl, 6 interceptions, 16 passes defensed. Quandre Diggs also had 4 sacks. None of them came before the bye. 2 of them came in the Raiders game. 1 came in the Jets. Didn't one of them come against the Jets? I don't remember. I think one of them came against the Jets, and the other one came against the Rams. Cody Barton also had 2 interceptions on the year. Mike Jackson, another guy I think we need to bring back next season, and Ryan Neal each had an interception. Yeah. Now, don't think that I'm trying to be down on this team, because I'm really, really not. I think this team, does it suck that they lost to the 49ers? Absolutely. Losing to one of your team's biggest rivals is always a downer. But I think the important thing to remember is think about where this team was at the start in the offseason. Everyone was saying, well, they'll be lucky to go 3-14. Some people even said we wouldn't win a single friggin' game. They wrote us off so quick, but just like good old Geno Smith said, we don't write back. This team pushed and fought like hell to get through and prove that we are not going quietly into the night. Russell Wilson was not the only reason why we were successful, and they showed it. They showed it quite well. As far as like awards go, I don't think Pete is going to win Coach of the Year. I think John Schneider will win Executive of the Year, 100%. And I think as it stands right now, Kenneth Walker is the favorite to win Offensive Rookie of the Year, which is good because it's absolutely deserved. Anyways, while there are some very obvious holes that need to get filled, especially on the defensive line and in the linebacker core and on the interior of this offensive line, I think that the trajectory of this team is going in the right direction. I think with a few tweaks this offseason and some good signings and another good draft, I think this team could be an absolute powerhouse in 2023, and I'm so excited to see where we go with this. So, as always, thank you guys so much for watching. I apologize for my very off posting schedule these past few weeks. I was I was busy at work and then did some traveling, and then came back and proceeded to get pretty sick. I'm still a little sick as it stands right now. But I'm getting better. I watched the game. It was a fantastic game. Well, no, it was not a fantastic game. It was a fantastic first half from what I was expecting. But yeah, I'm really excited to see where this team goes in the future. Expecting to see a lot of content in the offseason, talking about this team, talking about potential offseason scenarios and things of the like. And I will be sure to get you guys a first look into all of the fun things that Seattle has brewing this offseason. So I think as it stands now, with that loss, we already knew we were going to get the top 5 pick overall. But I think with that loss, we will get either the 19th pick or the 20th pick, depending on if the Bucks win or lose on Monday. So some things to look forward to still as far as the draft is concerned. Anyways, you guys have been fantastic. Thank you guys so much for watching as always. And go Hawks. Be sure to like the video down below, as well as subscribe for more Seahawks content. Have a good one, everyone. Go Hawks.